Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, Book 5, Part 6. This is speech practice. This is not an audiobook, although you'll get to hear the entire book if you keep listening. In the morning when the rise... and so we begin. In the morning when you rise reluctantly, let this thought be present. I am rising to do the work of a human being. Why then am I dissatisfied if I am going to do the things for which I exist and for which I was brought into the world? Or have I been made for this, to lie in the bedclothes and keep myself warm? But this is more pleasant. Do you exist then to take your pleasure and not at all for action or exertion? Do you not see the little plants, the little birds, the ants, the spiders, the bees working together to put in order their various parts of the universe? And you are unwilling to do the work of a human being. And do you not make haste to do that which is according to your nature? But it is necessary to take rest also. It is necessary. However, nature has fixed bounds to this too. She has fixed bounds to eating and drinking, and yet you go beyond these bounds, beyond what is sufficient. Yet in your acts it is not so, but you stop short of what you can do. So you do not love yourself, for if you did, you would love your nature and her will. Those who love their arts exhaust themselves in working at them unwashed and without food, but you value your own nature less than the truer values the turning art, or the dancer the dancing art, or the lover of money values his money, or the vainglorious man his little glory. And such men, when they have an emotional attachment to a thing, choose neither to eat nor to sleep, rather than to perfect the things for which they care. But are the acts which concern society more vile in your eyes and less worthy of your labor? How easy is it to repel and to wipe away every impression which is troublesome or unsustainable, and immediately to be in all tranquility. Unsuitable, not unsustainable. So how easy it is to repel and to wipe away every impression which is troublesome or unsuitable, and immediately to be in all tranquility. Judge every word and deed which are according to nature to be fit for you, and be not diverted by the blame which follows from any people, nor by their words. But if a thing is good to be done or said, do not consider it unworthy of you, for those persons have their peculiar leading principle, and follow their particular movement, which things do not you regard, but go straight on, following your own nature and the common nature, and the way of both is one. I go through the things which happen according to nature until I shall fall and rest, breathing out of my breath into the element of which I daily draw it in, the falling upon the earth out of which my father collected the seed, and my mother the blood, and my nurse the milk, out of which during so many years I have been supplied with food and drink, which bears me when I thread on it and abuse it for so many purposes. You say that men cannot admire the sharpness of your wits. Be it so, but there are many other things of which you cannot say that you are not formed for them by nature. Show those qualities which are altogether in your power: sincerity, gravity, endurance of labor, aversion to pleasure, contentment with your position and with few things, benevolence, frankness, and no love of superfluity, freedom from trifling, magnanimity. Do you not see how many qualities you are immediately able to exhibit, for which you do not have the excuse of natural incapacity and unfitness, and yet you still remain voluntarily below the mark? Or are you compelled, for being defectively furnished by nature, to murmur, and to be stingy, and to flatter, and to find fault with your poor body, and to try to please men, and to make great display, and to be so restless in your mind? No, by the gods, but you might have been delivered from these things long ago, only if in truth you can be charged with being rather slow and dull, or comprehension, you must exert yourself about this also, not neglecting nor yet taking pleasure in your dullness. One man, when he has done a service to another, is ready to set it down to his account as a favor conferred. Another is not ready to do this, but still in his own mind he thinks of the man as his debtor, and he knows what he has done. A third, in a manner, does not even know what he has done, but he is like a vine which has produced grapes, and seeks for nothing more after it has once produced its proper fruit. As a horse when he has run, a dog when he has tackled the game, a bee when it has made the honey, so a man when he has done a good act does not call out for others to come and see, but he goes on to act another act. As a vine goes on to produce again the grapes in season, must a man then, in a sense, act thus without observing it? Yes. But this very thing is necessary, the observation of what a man is doing, for it may be said, it is characteristic of the social animal to perceive that he is working in a social manner, and indeed to wish that his social partner also should perceive it. It is true that you say, but you do not properly understand what is now said. And for this reason you will become one of those of whom I spoke before, for even they are misled by a certain show of reason. But if you will choose to understand the meaning of what is said, do not fear, for this reason you will omit any social act. A prayer of the Athenians. Rain, rain, O dear Zeus, down on the plowed fields of the Athenians, and on the plains. In truth, we ought not to pray at all, or we ought to pray in just simple and noble fashion. Just as we must understand when it is said that Asclepius, the god of medicine, prescribed to this man horse exercise, or bathing in cold water, or going without shoes, so we must understand it when it is said that the nature of the universe prescribed to this man disease or mutilation or loss or anything else of the kind. For in the first case, prescribed means something like this: he prescribed this for this man as a thing adapted to procure health. In the second case, it means that which happens to or suits every man is fixed in a manner for him suitably to his destiny. For this is what we mean when we say that things are suitable to us, as the workmen say of squared stones in walls or the pyramids, that they are suitable when they fit them to one another in some kind of connection. For there is altogether one fitness, harmony. And as the universe is made up of all these bodies, to be such a body as it is, so out of all existing causes, necessity, destiny, is made up to be such a cause as it is. And even those who are completely ignorant understand what I mean, for they say, it necessity, destiny, brought this to such a person. Then this was brought, and this was prescribed to him. Let us then receive these things, as well as those which Asclepius prescribes. Many, as a matter of course, even among his prescriptions, are disagreeable, but we accept them in the hope of health. Let the perfectioning and accomplishment of the things which the common nature judges to be good be judged by you to be of the same kind as your health, and so accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to this, to the health of the universe and to the prosperity and happiness of Zeus. For he would not have brought on any man what he has brought if it were not useful to the whole. Neither does the nature of anything, whatever it may be, cause anything which is not suitable to that which is directed by it. For two reasons, then, it is right to be content with that which happens to you. The one, because it was done for you and prescribed for you, and in a manner had reference to you, originally from the most ancient causes spawn with your destiny, and the other, because even that which comes individually to every man is the power which administers the universe, a cause of happiness and perfection, indeed, even in its very continuance. For the integrity of the whole is mutilated if you cut it off anything whatever from the conjunction and the continuity either of the parts or of the causes. And if you do cut off as far as it is in your power, when you are dissatisfied, and in a manner try to put anything out of the way. Do not be disgusted, discouraged, or dissatisfied if you do not succeed in doing everything according to right principles. Rather, when you have failed, return back again, and be content if the greater part of what you do is consistent with man's nature, and love this to which you return. Do not return to philosophy as if she were a master, but act like those who have sore eyes and apply a bit of sponge and egg, or as another applies a plaster, or drench him with water. For thus you will not fail to obey reason, and you will repose in it. And remember that philosophy requires only things which your nature requires. But you would have something else which is not according to nature. It may be objected, why, what is more agreeable than this? Which am I doing? But is not this the very reason why pleasure deceives us? And consider it magnanimity, freedom, simplicity, equanimity, piety are not more agreeable. For what is more agreeable than wisdom itself, when you think of the security and the happiness course of all things which depend on the faculty of understanding and knowledge? Things are in such a kind of envelopment that they have seemed to philosophers, not a few, nor those common philosophers, altogether unintelligible. Indeed, they even seem difficult to understand to the Stoics themselves. And all our assent is changeable, for where is the man who never changes? Carry your thoughts then to the objects themselves, and consider how short-lived they are and worthless, and that they may be in the possession of a filthy wretch, or a whore, or a robber. Then turn to the morals of those who live with you, and it is hardly possible to endure even the most agreeable of them, to say nothing of a man being hardly able to endure himself. in such darkness then and dirt, and in so constant a flux both of substance and of time, and of motion and of things moved, what there is worth being highly praised, or even an object of a serious pursuit, I cannot imagine. But on the contrary, it is a man's duty to confront himself and to wait for the natural dissolution, and not to be vexed at the delay, but to rest in these principles only. First, that nothing will happen to me which is not conformable to the nature of the universe, and second, that it is in my power never to act contrary to my God, an inner daemon, for there is no man who will compel me to this. About what am I now employing my own soul? On every occasion I must ask myself this question, and inquire, what have I now in this part of me which they call the ruling principle? And whose soul have I now? That of a child, or of a young man, or of a feeble woman, or of a tyrant, or of a domestic animal, or of a wild beast? We may learn even from this what kind of things appear good to the many. For if any man should conceive certain things as being really good, such as prudence, temperance, justice, fortitude, he would not, after having first conceived these, endure to listen to anything which should not be in harmony with what is really good. But if a man has first conceived as good the things which appear to the many to be good, he will listen and readily receive as very applicable that which was said by the comic writer. Thus even the many perceive the difference, for were it not so, this saying would not offend and would not be rejected in the first case, while we receive it when it is said of wealth and of many means which favor luxury and fame, as said fitly and wittily. Go on then and ask if we should value and think those things to be good, to which after the first conception in the mind the words of the comic writer might be aptly applied, that he who has them through pure abundance has not a place in which to relieve himself. I am composed of the formal and the material. Neither of them will perish into non-existence, as neither of them came into existence out of non-existence. Every part of me then will be reduced by change into some part of the universe, and that again will change into another part of the universe, and so on forever. And by that consequence of such a change, I too exist, and those who begot me, and so on forever in the other direction. For nothing hinders us from saying so, even if the universe is administered according to definite periods of revolution. Reason and reasoning art, philosophy, are powers which are sufficient for themselves and for their own works. They move then from a first principle which is their own, and they make their way to the end which is proposed to them. And this is the reason why such acts are named catharsis, or right acts, which word signifies that they proceed by the right road. None of these things ought to be called a man's, which do not belong to a man, as man. They are not required of a man, nor does a man's nature promise them, nor are they the means of a man's nature attaining its end. Neither then does the end of a man lie in these things, nor yet that these which aids to the accomplishment of this end, and that which aids towards this end is that which is good. Besides, if any of these things did belong to a man, it would not be right for a man to despise them and to set himself against them. Nor would a man be worthy of praise who showed that he did not want these things. Nor would someone be good who stinted himself in any of them. Indeed, these things were good. But when a man deprives himself of these things, or of other things like them, or even when he is deprived of any of them, he is a better man to the extent that he patiently endures the loss. Such as are your habitual thoughts, as also will be the character of your mind. For the soul is dyed by its thoughts. Dye it then with a continuous series of such thoughts as these. For instance, that where a man can live, there he can also live well, but he must live in a palace. Well then, he can also live well in a palace. And again, consider that for whatever purpose each thing has been constituted, for this it has been constituted, and towards this is carried, and its end is in that towards which it is carried. Where the end is, there also is the advantage and the good of each thing. Now, the good for the reasonable animal society, for it has been shown above that we are made for society. It is not plain that the inferior exists for the sake of the superior, but the things which have life are superior to those which have not life, and of those which have life the superior are those which have reason. To seek what is impossible is madness, but it is impossible that the bad should not do something of this kind. Nothing happens to any man which he is not formed by nature to bear. The same thing happened to someone else, and neither because he does not see that they have happened, or because he would show a great spirit. He is firm and remains unharmed. It is a shame then that ignorance and conceit should be stronger than wisdom. Things themselves touch not the soul, not in the least degree, nor have they admission to the soul, nor can they turn or move the soul. The soul turns and moves itself alone, and whatever judgments it may think proper to make, such it makes for itself the things which present themselves to it. In one respect, man is the nearest thing to me, so far as I must do good to men and endure them, but so far as some men make themselves obstacles to my proper acts, man becomes to me one of the things which are indifferent, no less than the sun or the wind or a wild beast. Now it is true that these may impede my action, but they are no impediments to my affects and disposition, which have the power of acting conditionally and changing, for the mind converts and changes every hindrance to its activity into an aid. And so that which is a hindrance is made a favourance to an act, and that which is an obstacle on the road helps us on this road. Revere that which is best in the universe, that which makes use of all things and directs all things, and in this manner also revere that which is best in yourself, and this is the same kind as that. For in yourself also, that which makes use of everything else in this, and your life is directed by this. That which does no harm to the state does no harm to the citizen. In the case of every appearance of harm, apply this rule. If the state is not harmed by this, neither am I harmed. But if the state is harmed, you must not be angry with him who does harm to the state. Show him where his error is. Often think of the rapidity with which things pass by and disappear, both the things which are and the things which are produced, For substance is like a river in a continual flow, and the activities of things are in a constant change, and the causes work in infinite varieties, and there is hardly anything which stands still. And consider this which is near to you, this boundless abyss of the past and of the future, in which all things disappear. How then is he not a fool who is puffed up with such things, or plagued about them, and makes himself miserable? For they vex him only for a time, and indeed for a time that is short. Think of the universal substance, of which you have very small portion, and of universal time, of which a short and indivisible interval has been assigned to you, and of that which is fixed by destiny, and how small a part of it are you. Does another do me wrong? Let him look to it. He has his own disposition, his own activity. I now have what the universal nature now wills me to have, and I do what my nature now wills me to do. Let the part of your soul which leads and governs the undisturbed by the movements in the flesh, whether of pleasure or of pain, and do not allow it to unite with them, but let it circumscribe itself and limit those affects to their parts. But when these effects rise up to the mind by the virtue of that other sympathy that naturally exists in a body which is all one, then you must not strive to resist the sensations, for it is natural. But do not allow your ruling part of itself add to the sensation the opinion that it is neither good or bad. Live with the gods. And he does live with the gods who constantly shows to them that his own soul is satisfied with that which is assigned to him, and that it does all that the daemon wishes, which Zeus hath given to every man for his guardian and guide, a portion of himself, and thus is every man's understanding and reason. Are you angry with someone whose armpits stink? Are you angry with one whose breath smells foul? What good will this anger do you? He has such a mouth, he has such armpits. It is necessary that such an emanation must come from such things. But the man has reason, it will be said, and he is able, if he takes pains to discover the source of his offense. I wish you well of your discovery. Well then, and you have reason. By your rational faculty, stir up his rational faculty, show him his error, admonish him, for if he listens, you will cure him, and there is no need of anger, as you intend to live when they are gone out, so it is in your power to live here. But if men do not permit you, then get away out of life. Yet do so as if you were suffering no harm. The house is smoky, and I quit it. Why do you think that this is any trouble? But so long as nothing of the kind drives me out, I remain. I'm free. No man shall hinder me from doing what I choose, and I choose to do what is according to the nature of the rational and the social animal. The intelligence of the universe is social. Accordingly, it has made the inferior things for the sake of the superior, and it has fitted the superior to one another. You see how it is. You see how it has subordinated, coordinated, and assigned to everything its proper portion, and has brought together into concord with one another the things which are the best. How have you behaved heretofore towards the gods, your parents, brethren, children, teachers, to those who looked after your infancy, to your friends, kinsfolk, to your slaves. Consider if you have heretofore behaved to all in such a way that this may be said to you: never has wronged a man in deed or word. And call to recollection both how many things you have passed through and how many things you have been able to endure, and that the history of your life is now complete and your service is ended, and how many beautiful things you have seen, and how many pleasures and pains you have despised, and how many things called honorable you have spurned, and how many ill-minded faults have you shown a kind disposition. Why do unskilled and ignorant souls disturb him who has skill and knowledge? What soul then has skill and knowledge? That which knows the beginning and the end, and knows the reason which pervades all substance, and through all time by fixed periods, revolutions, administers the universe. Soon, very soon, you will be ashes or a skeleton, and neither a name nor even a name, but name is sound and echo, and the things which are much valued in life are empty and rotten and trifling, and like little dogs biting one another, and little children quarreling, laughing, and then straightway weeping. But fidelity and modesty and justice and truth are fled up to Olympus from the widespread earth. Hesiod, Works v. 197. What then is there which still detains you here, if the objects of sense are easily changed and never stand still, and the organs of perception are dull and easily receive false impressions, and the poor soul itself is an exhalation from blood? But to have good rapture amid such a world as this is an empty thing. Why then do you not wait in tranquillity for your end, whether it is extinction or removal to another state? And until that time comes, what is sufficient? Why, what else than to venerate the gods and bless them, and to do good to men, and to praise tolerance and self-restraint, but as to everything which is beyond the limits of the poor flesh, and to breathe, to remember that this is neither yours nor in your power. You can pass your life in an equable flow of happiness if you can go by the right way and think and act in the right way. These two things are common both to the soul of God and to the soul of man, and to the soul of every rational being, not to be hindered by another, and to hold good, to consist in the disposition to justice and to the practice of it, and to this to let your desire find its termination. If this is neither my own badness nor effects of my own badness, and the common good is not injured, why am I troubled about it? And what is the harm of the common good? Do not be carried along inconsiderably by the appearance of things, but give help to all according to your ability and their fitness. And if they should have sustained loss in matters which are indifferent, do not imagine this to be a damage, for it is a bad habit. But as the old man, when he went away, asked back his foster child's top, remembering that it was a top, so do you in this case also. When you are calling out on the rostra, have you forgotten, man, what these things are? Yes, but They are objects of great concern to these people. Will you too then be made a fool for these things? I was once a fortunate man, but I lost it. I know not how, but fortune means that a man has assigned to himself a good fortune, and a good fortune is good disposition of the soul, good emotions, good actions. End of book 5. This is it for the speech practice for today. Wishing you an absolutely amazing and beautiful day, and hope to see you in the next one if you enjoyed this type of stuff. Ciao.